Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our review of This Is Us Season 5, Episode 3. I think we should just say this from the jump. We have probably had more discussions over the course of watching this episode to where we are now, trying to make sense of this new little world that we were introduced in this episode. I am assuming we will have theories all over the place. We welcome them all with open arms.
Yes, please give us all your theories. We had a long discussion after watching this episode, all based on that one little picture. It has opened up a whole world of theories.
We're gonna try to tell you what we believe to be at least some of the truth with this. We'll give you our own idea of it. We'll also talk a little bit more at length about our newly named character, the fisherman. This is what we are going to call him. He joins the legions of Dr. Horse of random This Is Us character. Well, I know Dr. Horse actually has a name, but we don't even have a name for this guy.
Not here. He is Dr. Horse till the end of time.
That's right. Well, anyway, if you guys enjoy this video, subscribe to the channel. We have a lot of This Is Us discussion coming all season long.
Absolutely, and we also have covered Bachelorette tonight, so if you are watching that show, we are also watching that show, so make sure you check out that review as well.
Tuesday nights are basically the emotional gamut, where we go from being like
right?
either like teary-eyed or confused by This Is Us to being just outright angry about what someone does on The Bachelorette.
Yep.
Okay, let's just do all this. What does the photo mean? What does the fisherman mean? What does any of it mean?
Yeah, because the real problem here is that they didn't give us a lot of information. The information was so small. We have this fisherman, we have this granddaughter where they're speaking Vietnamese, but when they're inside, they're speaking English, and it kind of feels like maybe the granddaughter's not living with him. He's living in a small place. We don't even know exactly where they're living. It wasn't clear. Are they in Vietnam? Are they in America? It's not really clear. But what is clear is that he seems to want to make sure that his granddaughter is keeping her Vietnamese heritage by speaking the language, keeping that going, making sure she can speak that language as well as English. So it kind of feels like she's not living there, and maybe they're you know, kind of getting to know each other a little bit more.
It feels like that's the dynamic I took away from this, because it seemed like the granddaughter, I don't have a good name for her at the moment, but the granddaughter is basically
little cutie face. She's so cute.
Okay, well, she doesn't know, I think, the fisherman's rules fully as of yet, because he's still like trying to hone in on them with her, and it seems like the tradition of the fish and catching that is not something that she's altogether familiar with either. It just, I don't know what it is about like grandparents and grandkids fishing. Like my grandfather used to do this with me, where he would go and take me fishing and then teach me some of the odds and ends, but it seems like that's a new experience for her.
Yeah, my grandfather never took me fishing, but my dad took me fishing. He was a big fisherman. He loved to fish, so I learned my fishing from him.
It is just like a wholesome family bonding experience, and I think we get the sense of the warmness that is there between the fisherman and the granddaughter through all that, and we tried to look around the little home that he has here.
Yeah, that's the main thing they also weren't being very clear with, is what is the timeline of this? So like, how far in the future are we, or is this present time? And looking around the fisherman's house, I mean, he's got a microwave, he's got an electric kettle. I mean, there are some things in there. He's got a little electric egg timer. It's telling me that we're in the present.
Yeah, unless this is a Game of Thrones coffee cup incident all over again, like this is not in the past. Like, this is either in the present or the future, but I'm gonna go with you. I'm staking my claim that this is the present because of that photo. Oh boy, let's talk about this photo where we see what I'm guessing is, judging from the way the fisherman was talking about it, the younger version of the fisherman and a woman who we believe to be Randall's biological mother, Laurel.
Yeah, and I mean, it was interesting the way he was talking about her to the granddaughter, because it was sort of like a, oh, I'm showing you how to prepare this fish. This is something that I do for someone that I love. And, she's kind of like, oh, the woman in the pictures around the house. Yeah, that woman, I make this fish for her, the pictures of the woman in the house. And him saying the pictures of the woman in the house instead of being like, yeah, that's your grandma, it tells me that it is not her grandmother. I don't know why he would just be referring to her as, the pictures of the woman in the house.
It's such a weird question, and I think this is why we spent so much time trying to figure this out, because there's some elements of it that don't seem to make a whole lot of sense. Because I don't know why he would refer to her in these kind of weird, obtuse terms. Also, the granddaughter, she looks like she's somewhere between, like, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10, like somewhere in that range. Like, she would be old enough that she would probably know who her grandmother was, and someone probably would have told her that.
Yeah, and if this is the fisherman's sort of love of his life, which, looking from that picture and the fact that he's got pictures of her all over the house, this is probably the love of his life. I'm sure he would just be like, oh, that's your grandma, and let me tell you about her, sort of thing. And because he's not doing that, it feels like there's even sort of more of a mystery. Like, why isn't he sharing more about it? Is it because him and his granddaughter don't have a close enough relationship yet? Even if that was the case, he would still be like, that's your grandma. There's no, I don't see any circumstances that wouldn't be the case. And because this picture, when we saw this picture, and it looks like maybe they were in their 30s at that time, and Laurel, it seems like when she had Randall was maybe, I don't know, in her 20s, sort of. Maybe she's closer to her 30s, maybe it's late 20s. It seems like at some point along the way here, she has met this other man, and looks like in this picture they're both like holding her belly like she's expecting a baby. So the half sibling thing, that theory out there, it's a theory that sounds like it's starting to form into something.
I think that is the big takeaway. Like, I am getting caught up in the mental gymnastics on a lot of different things here, including, the fact that, oh, if Laurel is pregnant within this picture, then would that mean that potentially this really is the granddaughter? But then why is he referring to her in that sort of way? And why hasn't the granddaughter's parents talked about this at all? Or at least the one parent that would be the fisherman's kid? Like, it's all a mess.
Yeah, there is not enough information in these scenes, because he's with his granddaughter, the parents are nowhere, he's not referring to Laurel as the grandmother, so then there would be another person then that was his woman, his wife, his girlfriend, his I don't know who. Like, then why is there pictures of Laurel and not this other woman? Like, this scene was confusing. There were so many questions that were brought up just from that picture. Timelines, that's why we spent like a whole bunch of time being like, what's in this guy's house? Like, okay, there's a microwave, okay, there's this electric kettle, that means that we must be in the present. Like, what is going on?
We're doing a magnifying glass on things. That's what I was trying to do there.
Yeah, it's crazy how many questions have been raised by this with very few answers.
I think we'll go back to what you said, because I think this is the most important thing, is that ultimately, I think this is meant to represent that the half-sibling theory is coming to fruition, that somewhere out there, we're going to meet someone else.
And I'll also say this for This Is Us and whoever was, like, in charge of filming that scene. Please make that picture crisper. Like, it was really difficult to see what was going on, because, like, at first glance, I'm like, okay, she looks like she's pregnant and they're holding her belly. And then I looked again, I was like, okay, maybe not. Maybe she's just kind of at a weird angle. And then I looked again, I'm like, no, I think she's pregnant. Too fuzzy. Too fuzzy.
Can you just post her sonogram? Like, I don't know. Give us some proof or something if this is where you're going.
I landed on pregnant because they both had their hands on her belly. So that's what I landed on. But because it was so fuzzy, I was just like, pregnant, weird angle, I don't know. Pregnant. That's where I landed. So if this is the case, there is a half sibling out there. Now, is it Randall's therapist? No, I don't think
No.
it is. I honestly don't. And I know that that theory's been out there a lot, that this therapist is going to be a half sibling or cousin or something. That is too much of a coincidence for this show, which is really rooted in reality.
Yeah, it to me feels a little bit more, it just feels a little bit more like this is where they're going. That the therapist is going to advise Randall to maybe try to explore more of his biological mother's past and try to get more information. And then through that, maybe he's going to end up learning that she is actually still out there, or that there's other family members who are out there, because we didn't see Laurel in that scene. She may not be with us anymore.
Yeah, and the fact that he's got all these pictures of her and she's not there with him tells me that, yeah, your theory that she may be dead is true. My theory might be true, is that maybe she is unable to care for herself and he's got her in a facility where she's being cared for. Maybe the kid is caring for her. I mean, I don't know what, and now he's caring for the granddaughter. This scene makes me frustrated, guys. Like, there's so many questions out of it. I feel like there just wasn't enough meat on that bone. It was too thin.
I know what they were trying to do, and I think this is why I liked a lot of it. Like, I thought visually it was cool. I liked the sort of way they played it, but if you go back to the season 4 premiere, when we first met, Jack Damon, and we first got to, like, understand some of these other characters, like Cassidy, like, there was some uncertainties with some of that, but I felt like at the end of that episode, we at least could make sense of a little bit of it more than what we can do here. I think we needed maybe a couple little other threads, but for now, I'm just going to assume that Randall's going to eventually find the fisherman, that this is all in one timeline. It's not going to get any messier than this, and we can all be happy.
But it does still leave the question then, if Laurel went off with the fisherman years later, having another baby, why didn't she ever look for Randall? What happened there? Because yeah, William left at that moment because he thought that she was dead, and then, of course, we all know that she's not. So did William go off and, like, is he hiding out somewhere that she can't find him? Did she find him and he was just like, no, Randall didn't make it? Like, why isn't she looking for Randall? Because she wanted him. Like, she was there, she was ready, they were gonna all have a life together with her love, her new little love. Why wouldn't she look for them?
And it's pretty clear, at least based on the photo to me, that this picture of Laurel is after she was with William. Like, Laurel looks older in this photo, so there's not any sort of, like, weird time craziness. It is the big eternal question that I think This Is Us desperately needs to answer, because I think the unfortunate thing about all this for Randall, and I don't want this to be true, because I do not need this show to trample on my heart any further, but I don't think it's going to do Randall a lot of good to learn that his biological mother was alive, but if for whatever reason she didn't really look for him all that much, like, that's going to break his heart, and I don't want to see that.
No, this thing with his mother, it feels like all roads lead to Randall with a broken heart. Either she didn't look for him and didn't care enough to look for him, which I don't think that that's the case, or she died, which is again now leaving him with, oh, my mother was alive for a period of time and now I missed that opportunity and now she's dead as well.
Yeah.
Or she's incapable of taking care of herself, or her memory is gone, so she's alive and he's missed this time with her and she doesn't even know who he is, which is also heartbreaking. It just feels like all these roads are leading to tragedy, which was something that Beth said in the premiere too, where she was just like, you've had so much tragedy in your life, it's 2021 is gonna be the year for me, next year the year for me, sort of thing, and then this is coming up.
Here's the good news, Randall. If you find her soon, it won't be 2021 yet, and then maybe 2021 can get better. Okay. Now that we have spent 15 minutes just going through this photo,
thank you guys for bearing with us. This photo really had us down a theory hole.
Now, the rest of the episode, thankfully, is a little bit more straightforward.
Yep.
I will say, I like what they did with Kevin and Madison a lot in this episode, because it was sort of opening up their personal, their own demons and stuff that they've gone through. What Madison has gone through with her eating disorder, what Kevin has gone through with sort of this dealing with the superficiality of Hollywood mixed with his own problems and his own self-proclaimed daddy issues. I thought this was put together really, really well.
Yeah, and this was something that really needed to happen for them, because the thing that I've liked about them is that they've been more sort of raw and honest with each other, because they just didn't have anything to lose with each other at that time. So it was always the curtains pulled back on the two of them, and they just saw each other for what they were. Now this is here, so they're going to have twins, they're living together, they're going to get married, and they don't know each other very well. And they're both kind of walking on eggshells a little bit. He doesn't want to do anything that's going to sort of upset her. He's not opening up very much. She wasn't opening up with her eating disorder, her body changing. This was something I was expecting the show to move in that direction. Even just some of the smaller moments, like her setting her watch to get up before him and put makeup on to make sure that she was made up, because she sees him and he's sort of this Adonis that has to look good all the time, and he always looks perfect, and she's feeling really insecure. I think there's a lot of us out there that can relate to that. I could relate to that. Definitely when I saw that, I was like, I feel, like a lot of us have been there with that.
It is something they played with, even just a little moment so well, like her telling Kevin that he needs to put a shirt on before he sits down and eats. Like, I didn't even pick up on that when I first watched it, but then kind of thinking about it back, it's like, oh, that's why she said it the way that she said it. And, like, it was a subtle sort of storyline at times until you got to that sort of big reveal, but I think it was done really well. Even, like, the pretty insensitive, like, crazy Kevin fan on the street who's, like, clearly interrupting an important conversation. Oh, I blinked in the last photo. Can I get another one now?
I loved the Madison and Kevin conversation at the end of this, sitting in the garage, where she was trying to sort of explain how she felt about herself, about her body changing, about what she was, dealing with, to then hear Kevin sort of say that he's dealing with something kind of similar was interesting, because I had never really looked at Kevin that way, where he was, he was dealing with his alcoholism, and now he sort of has thrown himself heavier into working out, 2 workouts a day. This is his calling card, his abs. He's got to look good all the time. And now he's using that as, his focus, and he's having to deal with his own sort of body issues, that if he doesn't look like this, does he not get to work anymore? Where he's like talking about, oh, I'm going to be a lawyer. Why does a lawyer have to have his shirt off? I don't understand. And it is like, yeah, why does a lawyer have to be really ripped, And is it because it's Kevin that's playing it and he's ripped and that's what's expected of him? I loved that conversation at the end, and has made me more of a shipper of these two. I really like them.
I really like them. I really like what this story did in terms of presenting their relationship, like, regardless of whether or not they make it. I think they're fascinating to watch. And this whole story is another reminder that This Is Us does not need to basically make you be like, when it comes to, like, your brain in order to enjoy the show. It's like, this was straightforward. We understood it. We didn't have to have, like, an extremely long conversation trying to figure out what the bleep was going on. And it worked. Now comes Kate and Toby in the adoption story, which I'm a little bit more on the fence on.
Yeah, I feel like Kate so far this season just hasn't had the same effect of story that Randall has had, dealing sort of with what he's dealing with, or what Kevin is dealing with. She's, adopting. It doesn't have to be all 3 of them have to be in some sort of major turmoil. But, we have seen adoption stories on this show multiple times. So, and in different ways, and that makes it exciting. But for Kate, I feel like there needs to be a little something more there. And, it was fine, and it was cute, and it was nice to have a smile with them, especially, I love the back and forth with her and Toby. Even when they fight, they're cute.
Yeah.
But then, you know, this woman that they've met, I mean, this is going to end in heartbreak. This is not their baby. I don't know how I know this. I feel it in my gut.
Yeah.
It is not going to go smoothly for them. It is too perfect.
This is sort of what I think is going down here. And I put on my thinking cap already for this. And basically, this person's going to ghost them. And I think what happened is, I think that fight made her uncomfortable. She doesn't want to say it. She wants to act like it's okay. Because when you're around people and it's an awkward situation, sometimes you're just like, oh, no, it's okay, it's okay.
And
like,
she's their, like, they're her ride.
So, yeah, so she can't be like, this is terrible, because, she can't get anywhere. So I think she's in an awkward position. I just feel like, I don't think they're going to do the thing where she decides to keep the baby, because that's been done on like 800 other shows already, and this is a different way they can do it and not have the process for Kate and Toby be easy.
Yeah, the moment that I thought they lost her was when they were talking specifically about the diapers and that Jack had been sitting in diapers longer than that. As soon as I heard that, I was like, oh no, that's it. Like having a little back and forth with like, oh, you had the diapers, whatever. No problem. Let's just call her and get her to go out and get the diapers. And as soon as they had said that part, he's been sitting in diapers longer than this. Oh, I think he likes sitting basically in his own biologicals. Yeah, that is just like, this girl is not going to be interested in keeping them around anymore.
No, I don't think this is ending well. Maybe this will kind of take us to whatever interesting direction that they're going. I think it's just, the problem is we're dealing with like such home run material for Kevin and Randall at the moment. It's like Kate and Toby, it's good. It's not bad. It's just, it's more like just like you tap the bat and you walk over to first base. You're not getting all the way around.
Yeah, the thing that I was hoping to see with Kate, and maybe we will see more of it with Kate, is her two brothers are fighting, and that fight, and because she's in the middle and she has, you know, nothing to do with this fight, and she loves them both and they are not speaking, I was expecting to sort of see more of how that was affecting her and all of this and how hard it is on her. And we're just, you know, she says, and I'm off and I'm adopting, and, you know, it's not affecting her as much in this episode.
The only other thing that I think really stands out for me in this episode, and I hope that it doesn't get lost because of the just mind blank of that craziness at the end, is Randall talking about his experience with that, you know, young girl, I believe her name was Tanya, who, you know, makes this move on him, but it really just seems like, oh, it's mostly just about his race. It's not about anything related to him.
Oh, that was really heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Like, when I first saw her kind of like sniffing around him, I was like, oh, this is so cute. You know, it's this Kate's friend is interested in her brother. I'm like, this is really cute. And then, she said that, and I was just like, oh no, this is so heartbreaking for Randall. And so when his therapist asked him to give him a story, and that was the story, I was like, wow, this is tough for him, that he's had these things happening and no one to really relate to talk to about it.
And I hope we do get to sort of explore that a little bit more now. And it's good they did this, because sometimes when they do these like flashback stories, because we've seen so many of them, I kind of put my brain on autopilot a little bit, because I'm like, all right, you know, there's young Kevin working out or whatever. It's not as notable, but they need little things like this.
And that's why I was also really happy to see the test story. And I'm always impressed by this show of how they give these really good stories to the younger people in the cast, because usually it's about the adults and the kids kind of just get left behind and they don't get the really good stories of sort of stuff that's going on or how they're dealing with stuff like this. And, you know, that punishment, man, 6 weeks.
That's
I don't
bad.
think I've ever been grounded for that long.
Yeah, it was
I couldn't believe it when he said 6 weeks. I was like, that is a long time.
It was especially long when you considering, I think there's a part of Randall that was like, hey, I'm kind of proud of you. You're finding yourself. And that's something I still struggle with to this day.
Yeah, and that was something that I did like about sort of the story, the flashback story of what Randall was going through with this girl that was wanting a kiss from him because of his race and how it made him feel, and that he didn't talk to anybody about it. His mom came in later and was like, hey, how was your day? It was fine. And then you've got Tess, who's on the internet being like, hey, this is happening. You can't treat me like this. And it's, you know, there's obviously a bit of him being, you know, proud of her for doing that. And also now dealing with his own, like, man, I didn't do anything like that. And maybe I should have.
This is why This Is Us is so good. Like, all of it from start to finish. I think a really strong episode, despite the fact that we are all still on the island of the confused when it comes to the fisherman. But this is where we turn it over to you guys. The floor is yours. Let us know what you think is going on here. Hopefully, we will have more answers soon. And if you did enjoy this video, give us a like, subscribe, and if you want to support us further, check those links to the store, our Patreon, and we will see you here next time.